¿Qué pasa, YouTube? 6 Foot Hacks here. Have for you guys today, week 10 of the CCLD League. Now, if you guys may have missed week 9, a link to that should be down in the description, or there should be like a little annotation on the screen in the top right hand corner for you guys to go check that out after this or before this. Come back to this if you check it out before. Yeah, don't forget about this upload. But if you guys do enjoy the video, make sure to hammer that like button down below, guys. I really do appreciate your support on the CCLD League. If you want to leave a comment because I don't really know what to ask you guys during these uploads. Like, Wi-Fi battles are pretty easy for me to come up for, like, question of the days, or when it comes to like league type stuff like this for the CCLD League, it's just I don't know. Watch the match, let me know what you thought about it. This is a very terrifying, funny enough, we are facing Nightmare, the coach of the Last Hope Umbreons, and much like his name, this is a nightmare of a matchup because he's not only got Tapu busted, he's got Dragonite, he's got Star Raptor, Entei, Superior, even Galvantula could be a bit of a problem going into this game. Now, we faced Nightmare week 2 of the CCLD League, and we got pretty lucky and we stole a victory. Like, we got away with that victory. We shouldn't have won depending on damage rolls, but we definitely were able to steal the victory on week 2, and that was like a 60-70 turn match where I got really unlucky. So I'm hoping that this time the same does not happen, because I'm pretty sure I know what he's going to want to bring. For example, the first time we battled, I thought he may have wanted to bring double electric, so I was scared about him bringing Magnezone and Galvantula. But this time I'm pretty sure he's not going to bring Magnezone, but he may bring Galvantula just because Magnezone really doesn't do anything. I'm very positive he's not going to bring Mudsdale. He may or may not bring Entei and Superior, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to bring those two. Either way though, I'm very positive that he's going to want to bring the Tapu Lele, the Arachnoid most likely, the Dragonite for sure, Vaporeon obviously because Vaporeon has Haze, which can stop my Reuniclus from setting up on him. Fortress will most likely be coming just because it is his form of rapid spinning and potentially getting up hazards. And then he could also maybe bring Star Raptor. If he does bring Superior or Entei, those could be a little bit annoying, but I would rather see those instead of something like Galvantula and Magnezone, or instead of like Fortress or Star Raptor or something like that. So let's take a look at what I'm going to be bringing for week 10 of the CCLD League. I decided for this matchup to take a more defensive approach, which I know kind of sounds odd because my opponent has Tapu busted. But the good thing about Tapu busted is that he most likely is going to bring a choice variant, which means whether it be Scarfed or Specs, then I can play around it from there. Because as you see, I do have Sableye here, which means if he wants to try and go for the Psyshock or Psychic, I get a free switch into my Sableye. If he wants to go for Moonblast, I have Snorlax. And then Reuniclus can also set up on a non-specs locked-in Shadow Ball or Moonblast Tapu Lele. But as you can see here, we have Samantha the Scolipede. Now, Samantha is honestly just here to Toxic Vaporeon and be able to potentially burn a Lumberry on the Dragonite and just kind of stall things out. We have enough speed to outspeed max speed Timid Tapu Lele. After +1, we'll outspeed it even if it's Scarfed. And then Poison Job has a 96% chance to OHKO Tapu Lele after Stealth Rock. So if I can get a little bit of chip damage on it, then I'm guaranteed to knock it out with my Scolipede. I can also try and Baton Pass speed boosts to other Mons on my team. If I can get up enough speed boost, I may be able to outspeed his opposing Mons depending on how much I'm able to pass out to. But like I said, the main idea for Samantha here is to just Toxic Vaporeon. In our first matchup, he didn't bring Heal Bell on his Vaporeon just because it kind of has 4 move slot syndrome going into this game. It needs Wish, it needs Scald, and it needs Haze or Roar. Then his final move is either going to be Protect, Heal Bell, or Baton Pass, and I'm pretty sure that he's not going to have because he's got to have Scald and Wish, then Haze or Phasing move. Then his last move is either Heal Bell, Protect, or Baton Pass, which I'm pretty sure he would rather have Baton Pass or Protect as opposed to Heal Bell. So I'm really banking on that, because if he does not have the Heal Bell and I'm able to Toxic his Vaporeon, my Double Dance Reuniclus will easily be able to stall out Vaporeon and eventually beat it 1v1 as long as I'm able to Toxic it, because in our first match he brought Haze. So if he brings Haze again and I'm not able to Toxic Vaporeon, then this could turn into another 60-70 turn battle where I hopefully will not get very, very unlucky. So I am going to be able to Toxic it hopefully, and then eventually stall it out with Reuniclus or set up against it with Reuniclus to eventually beat it. And basically Reuniclus is really my main win condition. With this defense EVs, I'm able to take a choice banded lunge from Adamant Araquanid, if I'm not mistaken, at +2, and then return Psychic does a pretty good amount of damage, and I'm going to be able to knock it out at +2 Spadef. With these defense with these Spadef EVs, I'm able to take a Life Orbed Bug Buzz from Galvantula, also at +2 defense, +1 or potential choice banded Adamant Dragonite cannot 2-hit KO me. So from there I can set up against it or eventually beat it down and knock it out. I can also take Entei's Sacred Fires, I can take Star Raptors, potential choice banded Reckless Double Edges or Brave Birds, and that's really the only things that I'm terrified about. Tapu Busted cannot knock me out if I'm able to get up to +2 defense, but depending on what he brings is going to determine on which setup move I go first. So moving on down, we have Munchies the Snorlax here, which is running defense EVs and an impish nature to be able to take a non-specs Psyshock. We'll take 2 or 3 non-spec Psyshocks coming from Tapu Lele, because there's a chance he may just bring Scarf. And like I said, if he does bring a choice Tapu Lele, then I can kind of pivot around it with the proper predictions, and we're running enough speed to outspeed Relaxed Natured Fortress if he wants to bring it. And Fire Punch is a 2 or 3 hit KO depending on if he's physically defensive or specially defensive. Then Ice Punch is going to be for the Dragonite if he feels comfortable in trying to set up in front of my face. Fire Punch also hits the Superior and the Magnezone, and Body Slam is just really there for stab. I need to be careful actually on how I use Body Slam if I'm not able to Toxic Vaporeon, because knowing my luck, I'm going to end up paralyzing Vaporeon with the Body Slam, and that's just going to really, really suck. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen, and I could have changed Body Slam to return now that I think about it, but being able to potentially paralyze Entei, Superior, or Dragonite on a potential switch in is just way too good to pass up, because Vaporeon is just that one Pokemon. So I need to be careful about that. I'm gonna save this Mamoswine set. So next off we have Sour the Sableye here, which is kind of my pseudo hazard control Pokemon, because as you can see I don't have Crobat, which is the only hazard removal that I have on the team. So if he does have Fortress, I most likely am going to lead with Sableye just to be able to taunt Fortress. Another good thing about Sableye is that it's not affected by Extreme Speed from Dragonite, so if he is at +1, I could potentially Will-O-Wisp him if I'm able to burn the Lumberry, or if he doesn't have the Lumberry. Taunt also stops Dragonite from just freely setting up on me, and Knock Off is an all-around really, really good spammable move, because I can knock off a Lumberry from Dragonite, or Choice Band, I can knock off Vaporeon's leftovers, I can knock off Superior's Life Orb or leftovers, a potential switching in Entei's Choice Band or Assault Vest, Magnezone's possible Scarf Specs or AV, and then Araquanid, I do outspeed Araquanid, so I could potentially knock it out or knock off its Assault Vest or its potential Choice Band. So that's really good. Next up we have Juliet the Jolteon, running a pretty interesting EV spread here. Luckily we do have enough speed to outspeed Timid Max Speed Superior by 1 point, so if he does have Superior, as long as it doesn't get behind a substitute, I could potentially knock it out with Expert Belt boosted Hidden Power Fire or Thunder Wave it, as long as I don't miss. And like I said, I'm very, very positive that he doesn't have, or he won't have, Heal Bell on his Vaporeon. And Thunderbolt and Volt Switch are just there for stab. Although this set can't really do much to Dragonite, if I am able to burn its Lumberry or knock off its Lumberry with Sableye, that's going to be really good, because paralyzing that thing is going to be absolutely huge, because that means it could potentially get paralyzed against my Reuniclus as I try to set up. It may get paralyzed against my Snorlax or against my Samantha, the Scolipede, which is going to be really, really good. Hidden Power Fire and Thunderbolt, always 2-hit KO Fortress, even if it is Spadef bulky. Vaporeon takes about 60 to 70% from Thunderbolt, which is really good because in our first matchup, I didn't bring Jolteon. I brought Tangrowth thinking that Tangrowth would be enough to deal with Vaporeon, but unfortunately Tangrowth couldn't even 2-hit KO it. So by bringing Jolteon, I'm able to pressure him more and the reason for me having Bold and 6 defensive E's is because we can take a +1 Adamant Dragonite's E-Speed after Stealth Rocks. So if it comes down to it, I'll be able to switch in Samantha and potentially Thunder Wave the Dragonite or knock it out with the Thunderbolt depending on how much HP he is at. So moving on to the Dawn of all Dawns, the Don Cornelion, Meltzer the Mamoswine. Now before you guys flip your shit and you're like, what the hell is this? What's you see, this was originally offensive Mamoswine, but after thinking about it, I was like, he doesn't have a defogger unless Staraptor has defog. Well, does Dragonite learn defog? Well, he's not gonna have defog on either of those two is what I'm trying to say. His best hazard removal is Fortress, so obviously Stealth Rocks are a given just for the residual damage, and if I get rid of Fortress, I keep my rocks up, plus I have Sableye to prevent him from rapid spinning, so that's really good for me. And the reason why I have Reflect and Light Screen is because that makes Tapu Busted, Banded Araquanid, and Banded Entei, and Banded Dragonite so much easier for my team to deal with. Like, I'm gonna be able to switch a lot easier into them, and like I said at the beginning, I'm taking more of a defensive route to this matchup because I'm comfortable playing defensively. I know that if I take a more defensive route, I'll probably have a better chance to win this matchup, especially if I'm able to get a Reflect and Light Screen, because that's going to mean Tapu Busted isn't going to be doing as much damage to me. That makes Dragon Dance Dragonite a whole lot less of a problem. Araquanid isn't going to be smashing or smacking my team around with Choice Banded Liquidations. Superior is not going to be as scary even after 1 or 2 Leaf Storms because I can beat it with my Scolipede and with my Snorlax accordingly. Fortress does wall this set, but I do have my Jolteon to pressure it. I do have Fire Punch on Snorlax, and I have Taunt on my Sableye to try and stop it from getting up hazards. And the reason why I have Icicle Spear is because I'm able to live a +1 Adamant Outrage after Stealth Rocks, which is absolutely amazing because I'm going to be able to easily knock out the Dragonite because of Icicle Spear hitting more than once. I'll break the multi-scale on the first Icicle Spear, and then the second one has about a 90% chance to knock him out with 64 defense EVs, which is really good because Dragonite and Tapu Lele are easily the 2 biggest problems going into this battle, which this Mamoswine was specifically made to kind of mitigate them and kind of hold them at bay so I can work around them, weaken them, or find some way to beat them accordingly. So I'm really hoping that this Mamoswine puts in a lot of work. But yeah guys, that is the intro to the team. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the actual battle itself. Alright, so as you can see, he doesn't have Fortress, which is absolutely beautiful because he's got 4 Pokemon weak to Stealth Rocks, which is really good for me. Unfortunately though, he brought Galvantula, which could potentially have Sticky Web, and if it does have webs, that is going to be a slight problem because that means my Samantha Speed Boost isn't going to be as useful to me in this match. That also means that Jolteon is not going to be able to outspeed Staraptor or Galvantula or even the Dragonite, which could be a huge problem, so I really got to watch out for that. Of course, he's got the Dragonite and Tapu Busted. Vaporeon, like I said, has to have Scald, Wish, and either Haze or Roar. Then I need to find out what his final move is going to be, whether it be Heal Bell, Baton Pass, or Protect. And I'm very positive it's going to be Baton Pass more likely than the other two, or Protect instead of Heal Bell. Heal Bell is most likely going to be his last move that he's going to pick to put on Vaporeon, and that's not going to be as prioritized as opposed to Baton Pass and Protect, just because in our first matchup I didn't bring any status moves. So that's another reason why I'm really hoping Samantha is going to be able to Toxic Vaporeon. Now, If he does get the webs up and Tapu Lele is scarfed after +1, my Scolipede doesn't outspeed, so I really gotta watch out for that. Sableye looks like it can definitely put in a lot of work because I can burn Staraptor, I can knock off Vaporeon, I can taunt, burn, knock off Dragonite, which is really good, and I can maybe even knock off the Araquanid if it's not running enough speed to outspeed my Sableye. Mamoswine, like I said, I'm really hoping puts in a lot of work in this game. Getting up those dual hazards and getting up stealth rocks are going to be really huge. And then also my only real switch in to a non-specs, or even actually I don't really have a switch into specs Tapu Lele. It's just a matter of getting the proper predictions against it, so I really have to be careful around that Tapu Lele and see what kind of set it is. So seeing that Jolteon outspeeds his entire team bar a Scarf Staraptor, which I'm pretty sure he's not going to lead with because he may expect me to lead with Sableye or Mamoswine, or even maybe Scolipede, I guess, but most likely Mamoswine or Sableye is what he's expecting me to lead with. So with that being said, let's get this started. And I'm going to be leading off with my Jolteon, as he's going to be leading off with his Araquanid. Now this is really good for me. Being able to get lead matchup turn 1 is absolutely amazing, because now I'm hoping that I'll be able to pressure him out and maybe force him into either the Tapu Lele or the Galvantula. But he actually stays in, and since Volt Switch did that much damage, I'm very positive that he's not going to be an Assault Vest variant. Unfortunately though, if he's Choice Banded, I have no... I switch nothing into Choice Banded Araquanid. Samantha gets 2 KO'd, Melter gets 2 KO'd, Jasmine gets 2 KO'd, Munchies gets 2 KO'd, and Sableye potentially just dies. And at this point, I had to choose something to potentially get 2 KO'd or O-code, and ultimately I decided on my Sableye. As you can see, this does 95% to my Sableye, and this thing is definitely Choice Banded. He told me after the match it was also Choice Banded, so since that did so much damage, I'm thinking that I can safely go for a Will-O-Wisp here, because I completely forgot about Water Bubble. Like, I had an honest brain fart here and was like, well, I can just burn this, right, because he most likely doesn't have Heal Bell on Vaporeon. Now, if he was running enough speed to outspeed my Sableye, me misplaying here doesn't really matter, because he would have been able to knock me out. But if I was faster than him, then definitely going for the knockoff and getting off about 20-30% would have been the better play for me to make, because this would have made Araquanid that much less of a threat and put him in Stealth Rock range. Unfortunately though, like I said, had a brain fart and I go for the Will-O-Wisp. Of course, you can't burn Araquanid because of Water Bubble, and then I just stupidly lose my Sableye turn 2. Which really does suck, because I was hoping to knock off Lumberry or Leftovers or taunt Dragonite or potentially stop him from setting up on me. Burning the Staraptor would have been absolutely amazing, but now none of that's going to happen because I lose Sableye turn 2. So as he knocks me out, I'm going to bring back in my Jolteon, and at this point I can honestly just go for Volt Switch. Going for the Thunderbolt really did cross my mind. And the more I think about it, that honestly probably would have been my better play, because as he brings in the Galvantula here, Volt Switch does 23%, which means if I had gone for the Thunderbolt, I would have put him in range of where Hidden Power Fire would have knocked him out, and unless he was Scarfed, then he can't outspeed me and get off damage on me. But instead I go for the Volt Switch, which was honestly a bad play, because like I said, definitely should have gone for the Thunderbolt. As I Volt Switch into my Snorlax, I am then going to switch back into my Jolteon, because he literally has no reason to Bug Buzz, and he's either going to go for the Volt Switch or try and get up Sticky Web. So this is another reason why I should have gone for the Thunderbolt, because I could have prevented this and he wouldn't have been able to get up webs, and that would have been very helpful to me in this match. But now I have to play around him having up Sticky Webs, and I get a crit there with HP Fire. The damage roll from the Jolteon spread that I'm running to a non-HP'd, non-Spadef EV'd Galvantula is about 72 to like 82 or 85%. So it would have been about a 50-50 on whether or not that Hidden Power Fire would have been able to knock him out. So I don't know if that was entirely game-changing or not, because he would have been able to get off some Bug Buzz damage on me and done about 50 to 70% depending on if he had Life Orb or not. But I do end up getting the crit here, and I knock out the Galvantula as he's going to bring in his Dragonite. Obviously, I do not want to let this freely set up on me, so I'm going to go straight for the Volt Switch, and I didn't want to go for the Thunder Wave because I really didn't want to risk him potentially having the Lumberry. And now at this point I have to choose something to potentially switch in to a Outrage or a Superpower or an Earthquake. I don't know why I just drew a blank there, but I don't want to switch into my Reuniclus because I need Reuniclus to win this match. I don't want to switch into Snorlax because this is still my only okay switch in to a Tapu Lele if it's not Specs. And then obviously I can't bring in Jolteon because I Volt Switch, and then I absolutely need Scolipede because I need it to Toxic Vaporeon, and I can still beat the Tapu Lele 1v1 potentially if I'm able to get off a bit of power damage. So unfortunately I have to choose Meltzer to switch in here. I was also really hoping that he most likely was going to go for a Dragon Dance or even try to pull double switch. But, well, I mean, if he did switch out, then I would have got switch initiative with Volt Switch. But you get what I'm trying to say. Like, Mamoswine was honestly my only real switch in to whatever move this Dragonite wanted to go for. As he goes for the Superpower, that only does 56%. Now, if he was Adamant Choice Banded, that Superpower still would have straight OHKO'd me. But if he was Jolly Choice Banded, he had about an 80% chance to OHKO me, I think, so I might have lived. But because that Superpower only did about 56%, came nowhere near knocking me out, I'm very, very positive that he's not banded. So he most likely does have the Lumberry, which is really good for me. And the benefit of me having in my Mamoswine is that he most likely thinks I'm going to go for the Ice Shard, which makes this my perfect opportunity to go for the Stealth Rocks, because I know he's going to switch out into the Vaporeon. I can get on my rocks now and still save my Mamoswine later in this match for Deathlock. So I'm a hard switch right into my Reuniclus, very confident in the fact that he will most definitely go for a Wish. As he goes for the Wish, he reveals Baton Pass. Now, like I said during the team preview and the team building portion, he has to pick between Baton Pass, Protect, or Heal Bell as his final move. And because he just showed me Baton Pass, I am 99.9% sure that he doesn't have the Heal Bell. And this is absolutely huge because as soon as I Toxic the Vaporeon with my Scolipede, this match is going to be 10 times easier because that makes Reuniclus a bigger win condition because I can just stall out Vaporeon every time that he wants to stay in. I can chip his team down every time he wants to try and Baton Pass a Wish to them or set up on the Baton Pass Wish and then just get off damage that way. So he is going to try to Baton Pass to his Araquanid. Alright, I got some water, so I'm not dying. But I don't let him pass the Wish off to Araquanid just because I thought he was going to try and do this. Because if he gets this Araquanid back up to a good amount of HP, again, I have literally nothing that switches in to Choice Banded Araquanid. So definitely Psychicking there was my better play because there's no reason for me to try and set up this early on in the match. As I'm able to knock out the Araquanid, that crit literally did not matter, because I would have knocked him out either way. As he brings in Tapu Busted, I'm pretty sure he's either going to want to go for the Moonblast or try and go for the Shadow Ball, but he pulls out the Taunt. Now this actually kind of scared me because this is not a choiced Tapu Lele. This means that this thing is going to be a absolutely terrifying, problematic, humongously huge threat, because now I need to get my predictions correctly. Otherwise, this thing is going to just plow through my team. So here, I thought about this play for about a minute or two, and I didn't know if I wanted to go for the Body Slam or try and Heavy Slam on the off chance that he stayed in, thinking that I couldn't do anything to him. And after Stealth Rock's Heavy Slam is a straight OHKO, even though I'm not running any attack AVs. So ultimately, I decided to make the aggressive play in going for the Heavy Slam, because even if he brings in Vaporeon, that just gives me a free switch back into my Reuniclus. Or that gives me a switch into my Jolteon, which can then pressure his Vaporeon, and then from there I can just freely go for Thunderbolt, get off damage on something, or go for a Volt Switch. So even though this isn't a choice Tapu Lele, I can kind of play around it, but it's just I have nothing to safely switch into it. So he actually ends up staying in here, goes for the Nature's Madness as I'm able to destroy this Tapu Lele turn 11, and this is absolutely phenomenal because this now means I'm up 5-3 and his only threat is this Dragonite, which means I can play around this Dragonite a whole lot easier than I would have been able to if he had both Dragonite and Tapu Lele. So as I knock him out, he's going to bring back in the Dragonite here. I do not want to allow him to potentially set up on me, and I do have the Ice Punch, which is going to be able to knock him out at this range of HP if he did want to try and go for a Dragon Dance, thinking that a +1 he could then knock out my Mamoswine with an E-Speed after knocking out my Snorlax, but he just ends up going for the superpower, and this really sucked because I was hoping to catch him off guard with the Ice Punch. It's okay though, because now I can get a free switch into my Scolipede, which if he does stay in here and tries to Dragon Dance, I can burn his Lumberry because there's really no reason for me to not go for Toxic this turn. There's also the possibility that he thinks I'm just going to go for the Protect or go for the Rock Slide, and because his Dragonite and Staraptor are both weak to Rock Slide, his only switch-in is Vaporeon. And in our first game, I brought an offensive Scolipede as opposed to the defensive one that I have right now. So predicting his switch into Vaporeon, I am going to go for the Toxic, and like I said, if he did stay in, I would have been able to burn his Lumberry and then just Toxic again. But this is huge, guys. You don't understand how insanely important getting off this Toxic on Vaporeon is, because now my Reuniclus should be able to easily win me this match. As long as I don't choke or get really unlucky with crits, I am pretty much in a winning scenario at this point just by hitting this Toxic on Vaporeon. So I could have easily stayed in this turn and gone for the Protect if I really wanted to, but even if I had got the +1 speed, because he's got the sticky webs up and my whole team is affected by them, even though I would have been brought to neutral speed, well, I guess I could have baton passed to my Jolteon, but the downside of that is that he most likely could have baton passed the Wish to his Dragonite, and then he would have been brought back up to multi-scale, and because I didn't burn a potential Lumberry, then he could have Dragon Danced, and I guess things could have gone a little downhill for me. So the more I think about it, I guess just baton passing here was definitely my better play instead of staying in and trying to protect or go for a Poison Jab to just get off a bit of damage on the Vaporeon, as I can baton pass into Jasmine the Reuniclus here. This is really good for me because with Staraptor and Dragonite being his only two offensive presence at this point, my best move to go for is definitely the Iron Defense. And at +2 defense, Staraptor doesn't 2-hit KO me, Dragonite doesn't 2-hit KO me either unless it's like a +2. So he's going to go for the U-turn here, only doing about 20% to me as I make the aggressive play in going for the Psychic on the off chance that one, he did U-turn, or he tried to go for a Banded, Reckless, Double Edge, or Brave Bird, knowing that after the recoil damage, Psychic would have been able to 2-hit KO him. As he's going to try and go for the Wish here, I go for the aggressive play in going for the Psychic, as he's then going to go for the Haze. Now, yes, I could have gone for the Psychic here, but I actually end up going for the Iron Defense. And the reason why I want to do this is because I want to be at +2 defense against the Dragonite. And if I had gone for the Psychic there, I think, well no, because I don't think his Wish would have been wasted. Would it have? I think that I was thinking that after I knocked out the Vaporeon, if he hazed me, he could have then brought in Dragonite to get the Wish, and he would have been brought back up to full HP. But now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure that the Wish would have been wasted here, because there wouldn't have been a receiving Pokemon at the end of the turn. And when he brought in Dragonite, that would have started a new turn. So, yeah, I guess I could have gone for the Psychic there. But then I wouldn't have been at +2 defense against the Dragonite, which could have potentially set up on me as I went for Iron Defense, and that could have been very bad. So here I'm just going to spam Iron Defense because it's really my best play to do, knowing that Psychic will eventually knock him out. I can be at +2 defense against whatever he wants to bring in against me, as on the final turn he goes for the Wish, and now I'm at +4 defense, and this is absolutely amazing because now unless Dragonite sets up to +3 and gets a crit, there's really no way he can beat me 1v1. So he ends up bringing in the Dragonite here. He's going to go for the Outrage, and he was hoping for a crit. Luckily, he doesn't get it. And the minimum damage that Psychic can do to Dragonite is 36%. But I do 34%, and he gets his wish. Now, I'm very positive that he either had special defensive Vs or HP Vs, and then I just got an absolute min damage roll, which is a little bit scary because now he could potentially crit me with an Outrage, which might be able to knock me out. So he's gonna try an Outrage again, as luckily he doesn't crit. I, however, do crit him with the Psychic, but as you saw, Psychic did 34% without a crit, and because he was at 68%, 34 plus 34 is 68. So even if I got 2 absolute min damage rolls, I still would have knocked him out as long as he didn't crit me. So that crit doesn't matter at all, as Jasmine is going to be able to take the second Outrage. In return, I'm going to be able to knock out the Dragonite, and he actually has Lumberry this time, funny enough. And with his last Mon being Staraptor, if this is Adamant Scarf, he actually does have a chance to win if he crits me, because with my Samantha not being too defensively bulky, an Adamant Reckless Double Edge does about 98 to like 102% or something. It's something like that, but he's got an 18% chance to knock out my Scolipede at max HP if he is running Adamant Reckless. But he actually ends up going for the Brave Bird here, which means even if he had crit me, I could have then brought in Jolteon to live the Brave Bird and knock him out with the Thunderbolt. And luckily, Reuniclus does not get critted. Like in our first match that I had against Nightmare week 2, my Reuniclus got crit. It got Spadef drop, and it was just a really, really tough match that luckily we were able to win. But in this matchup, my Reuniclus, after being properly trained, was not hacked, and we were able to pull out the victory with the 4-0. This puts us very, very close to being number 1 in the CCL D League. I believe we are only number 2 by 4 points, and that is because K2, who was originally number 1, lost his match against Sork. So if I'm able to win next week and I get a higher score than what Kyle gets, then that may put the Durham Druddigons back as number 1 in the CCLD League. But we do have another tough matchup against a very skilled opponent who I believe is number 3 right now in the CCLD League. So come back next Monday, guys, for week 11 of the CCLD League. And if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to hammer that like button down below. Leave a comment about something. Praise Reuniclus, because Reuniclus, I think, has easily been the MVP of the Durham Druddigons in the CCLD League. So with that being said, guys, I will see y'all tomorrow with the Wi-Fi battle. Thank you all for watching. Later, everybody.
Cause my brain and heart are both tied in a knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion, but when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears of hope, and I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, and hoping. For real.